For the purposes of this, I'm going to call you Ava. Yeah, is that okay?
Yes.
Well, welcome back, Ava. This is a very important update, and you are in Switzerland, is that right?
Finland.
Oh,
In Turku. I'm in Turku, Finland, about an hour from Helsinki.
wow. Well, did you want to tell us how you got that far and what's happening?
Well, I've got the invite. I've got the invitation from this great gentleman, Alpo Ratio, who is Buddhist scholar and linguist. He speaks about 9 languages, or at least he studied them. And while I was in Uruguay, we were searching for next place for me so that I could actually continue with my research. And
So, yes.
because I lost so much in that operation in last 2 years. I lost my rented apartment in Prague. Things had to be put into storeroom, and then different kind of things disappeared from my life, including my MacBook Pro, iPad Air that had to be sold in India for just nothing because I needed money for flight tickets. So I saved data on hard disk that we just managed to transfer to PC, to Windows-based computers. So that was another piece of hassle and difficulty that I had to go through text or pay the 40 euros just for that, or 45. And it's incomplete, but at least something positive was arranged. But now I'm in Turku, this beautiful historical town that was called Abo, and in historical past, it was a capital of Finland. There is a Abo Cathedral in the town center that comes from 12th century. It's amazing old Gothic cathedral, and it's fairly peaceful and quiet place. So I'm a little bit squeezed for space here in a tiny apartment of this gentleman, and I'm trying to recollect my mind, also reconnect to people and find some resources to continue on my way and on my project.
Well, that's a lot going on, Ava. So, really, what's exactly the purpose of what your research is all about?
Well, as we did Basic 16 update last week, I think I've tried to present the information that I testified to previously in more, I would say, wholesome manner, so that the message actually comes through and out, because today's space science is more advanced than it was, say, 10 years ago. And our astrobiologists and astrophysicists worldwide are already coming with hypotheses of human origins in the stars. So I believe, this is my original information and data from Bodh Gaya 2002. I was the first person who actually brought this data to public awareness. So I wish that the message and the information I have is well received, that it stays intact, and that it gets that it becomes a part of our scientific and human awareness, and that it gets a chance to be explored.
Okay, well, exactly what part of modern science are you referring to? Because, I mean, we're still launching tin can rockets. I think the only advanced ship that's in the public domain is Elon Musk, which can actually land back. But, I mean, and he can send a car up into orbit, allegedly. What aspect of modern science do you feel has caught up, which means that what you're talking about is going to make more sense?
Well, I would say that space science, generally referring here to astrophysics and astrobiology. has advanced in its awareness in last 10 or 15 years rapidly. I think the way things were understood before were kind of had a rigid frame of a few theories. There was the Darwinian theory of evolution, and then there was panspermia, and then all the rest was viewed with a level of skepticism. 15 years ago, we were barely looking at the space, and they just started to search for so-called exoplanets. Now, after 10 years, there have been actually thousands and thousands of exoplanets already observed. Our say space scientists globally are able to even detect exoplanets that possibly contain water and that are habitable, that are in so-called Goldilocks zone. So they can host life. Some of them exist fairly nearby, some of them far away, and also their understanding of life and interconnectedness of life and the possibility of intelligent life surrounding us in this vast universe has advanced to that level that actually the mental field is far more open than it's been previously.
Well, actually, I have to report that according to the BBC and Professor Cox, he's just done a BBC program saying
Brian Cox, yes,
yeah,
famous guy.
yeah, he's like, I've got no time for him. He's saying that no, you're wrong. There's only humans. Nothing else can happen in the universe. That's it, which is bollocks, frankly.
Well, unfortunately, this planet is still full of, I would say, retrograde intelligence and awareness that makes people just fight for their opinions and beliefs. So unfortunately, we can't get stuck with people of that caliber and terrorists and various faithers and truthers who believe in their religion. And for many of the skeptics, their skepticism just became a religion. They turned their skepticism to a dogma, and they religiously kind of stick with it. So and they believe
Yeah,
in
that's
yeah.
the point. I mean, science is a dogma, but it's very relieving that you've been able to convince other scientists
But
otherwise.
science is not a dogma. Science is investigation. Science is a scientific method, and collecting sequence. Science is about a logical sequence and a sequencing, whereas skepticism, in its extreme, can become a dogma, like every other, I would say, faith or every other doctrine. Now, the extreme of skepticism is with people who are doubting all of their existence, all that surrounds them, and I would say they end up in a kind of nihilistic awareness or an awareness that does not have grounds. So, like in that kind of empty space for them, where they are not aware of any higher organization pattern or a level of intelligence, or they keep denying it even potentially exists. In that kind of emptiness, anything can happen.
Well, that's extremely wise material. Unfortunately, the public science that we're being fed, certainly by the BBC and such organisations, is extremely 3D and or retrograde, as you mentioned. So, what part of your theories or experiences is linking up with science today, and how is that being received?
Well, I would love to bring forward the the message of a human origins as it's been discussed by us in Basis 16 and in this very recent update. And this is what I saw in front of my eyes, that I witnessed in Bodh Gaya in January 2002, when I visited this giant mothership, a spaceship that brought us here, that had its own time-space field, and where I saw these beings who were our ancestors landing here on the planet in their previous, say, light plasma, biological plasma form, and that was very well defined. That was very delicate form. It was not some kind of misty shape, a light, a rays of light like some people imagine. We also had very advanced technologies and a spacecraft, obviously, that carried at least 10,000 beings who were our ancestors. So I saw very well defined beginnings of and landing, and I had a full recall and full experience of us flying through space, being in the ship that had nothing to do with current human technologies, and landing here on the planet in times long ago, and basically being responsible also for the beginning of this very human civilization. So I saw what has happened biologically to our ancestors, at least some of them, and the forces, the planetary forces, namely gravity, pressure, and other forces responsible for the cause of particle disintegration and forming human beings as we know them today, or their predecessors.
Is that the Sasquatch? Eight.
No,
But
no, no,
what sort
no,
of
no,
no?
no. That has to do with all of our, say, human ancestry. From those beginnings, there were many, sprung many human lineages and all kinds of humanoid beings. But that does not mean that, or that other animals on Earth are part of our heritage. It does not say so. I clearly saw that there is an only type of entity that we basically include in the genus Homo that came from these very advanced ancestors who were not animal-like in any manner. So, maybe a very low, very small percentage of our ancestors, I would say, degraded to a, say, animal-like lifestyle or manners and habits. Later, maybe some of them grew a big fur, maybe some of them lived naked in forests, but not all of them. And I would say from the beginning, there were many types of human groups or humanoid groups, and always at least half were still very advanced. They retained their previous shape and biological information to bigger degree, whereas others were more damaged and descended to simple form. But yeah,
What
that's
do you
about.
mean by a simple form?
I would say that from the beginning, some of our ancestors and the Homo, genus Homo, human-like beings who were formed by stepping to terrestrial gravity and turning to dense, kind of shrunk, fleshy, bony creatures. So each individual genomic pattern was individualized and became a beginning of a particular lineage. Some of those lineages are extinct. We cannot observe them now. For example, there were giant people at some point of our history, as well as there were very little people, because
I mean, are you able to give specific examples and time lineages, and do they all exist in the same? Do they all exist in the same time space domain as we do now, or has gravity changed since? I mean, we're much bigger creatures here, and it would infer that the space time domain that we exist in at the moment has changed quite radically.
well, at the beginning, we are talking of time frame of many millions of human years. So obviously, I'm not able to describe or give data about all those millions of years. But I can describe very well, consequentially and logically, what has happened right at the beginning, which is very important, because the beginning itself is the cause of all that followed. And so what I can testify and what I have observed from my point of view as an extraterrestrial entity, advanced entity, who landed here with those other entities and who observed what happened to some of our, say, kin or siblings, to those of our group. We're talking of 10,000 beings, many of them perished in the gravity field and in the strong radiation. But of the others, of the remaining thousands of others who collapsed to terrestrial gravity pressure and who were simultaneously affected by strong radiation field of the ship crashing to this space-time. So we're talking of a space-time collision, right? A very strong collision of very strong energy fields. Then in those fields, what occurred is a unique characterization of biocodes, or what you call genomic information, that varied from an individual to an individual. And that happened millions of years ago. So of all these individuals, various individuals who happened to come to existence at the beginning, they still followed, they still suffered long adaptation process. So at the beginning, they experienced recovery. They by adapting to this planet and eating, for example, they had to start eating something that would help them to adjust. So at the beginning,
what did you exist on before that? I mean, how did you ingest energy? How did you obtain energy? How did the transformation happen?
Well, our original, as we are in original, so we were these kind of biological plasmatic beings who
is this what people would today call jinn? They're energy beings.
No, I would not exactly associate every kind of being, because there are thousands and millions of them on descriptions of ghosts, spirits, jinns, deities, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas.
The jinn claim that they were here first, and then these other beings arrived. Is that what you're talking about?
No, not at all.
But is that something you can clear up?
There may be a little logical trap. There is a little logical trap. All these, in all religions, you find references, and this is what I talked about with the particular Myoshinji's lineage as well. In all religions, you find references to light beings, and they have, of course, different names. And all the story about them is that they have been here first. Now, who is that who have been here first? Of course, it's the same entities we are discussing. It's our ancestors. So whether people refer to them nowadays and as angels or or Buddhas or deities, or they give them various high or low names. Originally, they were highly advanced entities who came from different star, to put it simply. What people call them today is a different story. But I want to go back to what I already mentioned. These beings who we were could feed on light, and also we could ingest our own say plants on our own planet, in our own star system. The nature was kind of biologically on par with us. It was of the same quality, and so our feeding functioned differently. But for human beings who became one with this biosphere, they had to adapt, they had to adjust, and in order to survive here, they had to start feeding from this biosphere as well. So a long process of cohabitation and co-adaptation happened in synchronicity with local flora and fauna and so forth.
So there were no other beings here, I mean, for that?
Well, not at the beginning. There were no advanced beings here, but of course there was primitive life, and after we came, that type of life started to evolve rather rapidly. I would say again, synchronicity with time cycles, natural biological cycles of this planet. That is.
I mean, did your arrival actually influence the local biology to develop quicker, or?
I suspect that it fostered more abundant evolution, that also biological information that we have actually left here, or that we scattered to the environment, because many of our ancestors involuntarily died and broke to pieces. So also our collision with the environment fostered evolutionary processes on this planet biologically.
So what actually happened? Have you been able to work out over all these years what happened? Did Gaia, or did Sophie, the entity that the Earth is with, did it sort of bring you here to do that, to sort of trigger this huge jump in evolution?
No. I just want to remain with my testimony. People like to. We all sometimes need the reasons. We searching for apologies to and reasons. Why are we here? I have been searching for that answer since I was a small child, asking the same question: why are we here? And people want to find a reason, excuse. But in fact, it was an accident. It was purely an accident, and we have landed on this planet because our mothership, our spaceship, was flying in space. It detected operational navigational error, and the system had to rest somewhere, and it found this nearest habitable planet of where we were flying through, and it decided to rest us on this planet for time being. So it was and thus we became stranded here. So it was actually an accident. It was technical, and it was a space accident.
So that the whole point about that is based on the legends. Are there legends which we know of which are closer in the public domain to what you're actually talking about? Anything that we can pick from? Ancient aliens, that kind of thing.
Well, my information precedes the theory of so-called ancient aliens because that's you know more about it perhaps than I do. But
Well, it's a TV
people like
series. I mean, just wondering how much of that is true. And with this thing with Professor Cox on the BBC last week, really, it's a big step backwards.
well, the theory of let's quote somebody really famous and prodigious like Eric von Däniken. So many of the ancient aliens theories started with him, and with him bringing up information forwards, for which he is a pioneer researcher, and he has done precious.
Well, he actually
Work.
disagrees with a lot of the stuff that's been said about his work. I mean, he would privately say stuff much closer to what you're talking about great huge wars which happened and terrible things within the solar system. Or did
You
that
see,
happen later?
there are many couple points to address. So firstly, the so-called ancient alien theory is incomplete. Yeah, just to repeat it for a newcomer, which no newcomer and anyway will watch this series.
Yeah, for the
But
sake of if you give that as a reference point.
as a reference point, people believe that perhaps there were, primitive humanoids living on this planet, and then there was a descent of some other space visitors who then perhaps mated or who were crossbred and who influenced this civilization and accelerated its evolution in a rapid manner, whichever happens on in accounts of visiting contact, interstellar contact that happens each time. Nevertheless, this is not the full truth. This is not the whole truth.
Well, the whole point about this is to try and get to that truth. So do proceed.
My testimony is about our original landing, that our own ancestors, or you may say even us, are the original extraterrestrials who were the most advanced of all those we can name later, who became stranded on this planet and gave birth to human civilization. So this is the core of the truth. I would say there is nobody else who made us or who made us more advanced than we are, since we are biologically and historically, we came from faraway space, and we contain the most information that has to do with our origins, with our abilities, and also with our future. Another message to get out for humans: forget about being so geocentric, like the medieval church, and so anthropocentric. Just imagine for a second that the universe is teeming with life. So why would this planet be so very special that everybody would come here? That belief itself comes from this extreme geocentrism and anthropocentrism that is the same like the medieval Catholic Church dogma: only us are here, only us.
Yeah, or the BBC's.
Yeah, but imagine how ridiculously impossible it is. Look out, look to the starry skies, and just imagine for a second, this universe is full of various forms of life. Of course, not everybody out there are advanced, not everybody are capable of space travel, but we are just one of those who were very advanced, of who were and are and will be capable of far space travel, travel in space.
Right. So a little bit more sunshine there. So let's boil down to the issues that you really want to get across on this update here in October 2018. So we're dealing with the original landings and the changes which happened, but there's been a lot of counter evidence about there couldn't possibly be any life out there, yet there's exoplanets, all sorts of things, information coming. Where do you stand in all that? And
Well,
you've got?
and there is
You have.
also,
Sorry, you've got major issues you want
yeah.
to update us on. So let's
I
get to that
think I have
position.
said it. I think I have said it last time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've talked over, but there's been interesting, I would say, a rehash of information. For example, I can only start as a reference point with then my 2000 visit to our ancestral spaceship, which information I then brought to Europe in 2005 when I returned to Europe, since I was in Namgyal all that time. I was in Kalachagra temple in Namgyal monastery in Dharamsala. I only returned to Europe in March 2005. Then I got on computer 2006. Then I wrote my first article for the UFO case books with BJ Booth. Then in 2007, then I was invited by some UFO researcher in Indiana. Then the visit did not happen. Then I started to work with Barry King in 2007. I joined his private group. And in 2010, I say we published the report. At the same time frame, I was interviewed by Project Camelot and yourself in 2012. But I feel that in that time frame, the information was not appreciated, could not be appreciated very well.
I agree. I think
also,
the UFO community is not up to speed on this. So let's make it up to speed now.
well, and also I have struggled with my descriptions, because obviously my human brain, or I would say this I had a difficulty of describing that type of advanced information that I
Well, okay, just to
and
let you
feel
know,
to human language, right?
just to
Now I'm
update
doing
you,
a little better,
yeah,
but
8-dimensional physics, they're now talking about that publicly. They're talking about how an ET can be in Sirius and walk in through the wardrobe of somebody's bedroom using 8-dimensional physics. They're starting to explain that. So does that help you explain what you're trying to do now?
well, I can explain more of myself. I'm happy that other people understand multidimensional physics, but actually, as entities, we have understood hyperspace physics much better. It's more about my evolution, I would say, even linguistic evolution, how well I am able to describe these concepts to you before you lose patience. But and I was also encouraged by the leading SETI scientist, Dr. Shostak, to write a paper. And unfortunately, in the same time, very shortly after that, I lost my MacBook Pro, and I lost most of my backup. So
well,
I'm virtually
is
still
it something that you could,
on a road.
in that particular subject you just mentioned, Doctor Who, could you say that more carefully so people could reference that paper then publicly?
Well, it's not a paper, but the paper is to be written by me, obviously. But I think I do better on in the kind of communication we have. Even though Dr. Seth Shostak, who was the chairman of the SETI Institute for 50 years, who are basically radio astronomers who were searching for signals, or who are searching for intelligent signal, and but whose awareness and scientific, I would say, ideas now expanded largely to more advanced hypotheses, and many young open-minded individuals who are already preparing so-called contact protocols, and who are discussing the ethics and the law and incredulity of future extraterrestrial contact, with Dr. Shostak even casting a prediction that contact is bound to happen in next 10 years. So he put a certain timeline of conviction on the number 2000.
Well, are you familiar with the work of Eamon Ansborough in Ireland? He's got a communication device which basically operates as a scalar communication device. And so he's positively using non-EM wave, non-electromagnetic wave or vector wave technology, which is transluminal, to try and make contact.
Mm-hmm. But I'm not familiar with the name, but if you kindly send me the link, I'll be happy to look into what he is doing.
But he's actually given some presentations to the SETI group. I think the first time was in Bulgaria or Austria, and also in the UK.
Yeah, there are many nowadays. That's why I'm saying the field is advancing, because there is also optical SETI, and then there are many types of versions of search or making contact.
Yeah, but I mean, optical light is obviously, we're still looking at a universe which is governed by the speed of light. And where did our original species, where did you come from originally?
Well, as I have described that, we came from a different star cluster. We are from different what you call super cluster. So we have actually crossed a huge distance, and that such a long travel was only possible.
But that must be
due to our advanced knowledge of physics and time-space fields. So physically we worked with time-space fields, and the ship also functioned as a huge time-space field generator. So it was able to generate its own gravity and time-space field, such a small star would do. It was not that big, but it would generate a very powerful nuclear field. And with the help of such advanced physics and technologies, we were actually able to traverse huge distance that otherwise would not be possible by normal 3D physics or technical means. And also about your reference to the speed of light, I want to clarify that point, because I'll repeat again, I have already testified to it, and nowadays if you check some of the newest PhDs coming out in physics, you will find that I was rather correct, where I stated that the speed of light as such is variable. Even though we were taught Einstein's theory of relativity and a speed of light.
Well, it's a special theory of relativity, because there's questions over who actually discovered it.
Yes. All right. Yes, but even then, this observation is only valid in a particular in the local universe. Now, what does every speed of light depend? It depends on the emitter, and the emitter is a local sun or local group of stars. I would say a local star or a group of stars. Basically, the whole cluster and velocity, of its emission, and the original mass of the star, and the mass of nuclear fusion is responsible for the constant that we describe as the speed of light that is valid in our particular universe. However, there are, what you say, the multiverse or universe where we really live in, the soup of universes, and who are like big bubbles what we call these star clusters and galaxies where these bubbles are floating. So the space is very, very vast, and each star mass originated with slightly different physical properties and qualities of slightly different mass, and therefore the velocity, particle velocity, and the mass of nuclear fusion that happens in each of these universes is usually is not a constant. It's not completely the same. It differs from one one place to another, and so also there are many, I would say, discrepancies in our observation of a starry sky. What we see is far, not only referring to an optical illusion, a lens type of illusion, but also what we see is far and what we see is near, where we calculate the speed of light, is unfortunately only based on our, so far, or was only based on our local, say, geocentric or these solar calculations. That goes back to Einstein's theory, special theory of relativity. And fortunately, today's young physicists already arrived at a multi-leveled physical platform where they were able to forecast or predict that not necessarily in the universe the speed of light is going to be constant. And so also distances between various star systems vary, and how we observe them, how far they are, and how near are they. And
that's the fundamental error. So we're basing everything on just a local yardstick. But also, what about dark matter? I mean, we're meant to be 99.9.99999% dark matter. So-called dark matter.
If we call dark matter everything that we actually can't see and that is unexpressed in the electromagnetic spectrum, we could also use a term like space particles or obscure matter, a junk matter, but we are still talking of universe of quantum fields. So even the so-called dark matter are basically quantum fields aligned together in a patterns that define time-space fields of different properties, and it's not homogeneous. It's not those fields aren't homogeneous. They are like a sea. I would compare them.
Absolutely, yeah.
To an ocean.
Yeah, it's like trying to make a flat cam cover the entire Atlantic and expect everything to be flat all the time.
No, it's neither flat nor homogeneous. So there are different currents, different densities of what you call this obscure dark matter, and they define the quality of the water, or you say the space.
I think if you look at the surface, if you look at the gaseous propagation, or if you just look at the atmosphere of Jupiter,
right,
that's it's full of all sorts of swirlpools and different layers. Absolutely not just like an oxygen atmosphere, or a nitrogen atmosphere like we have here on Earth. Completely. Well, even our weather. Just think of space weather in dynamic time.
And that's that's on a small planetary scale. But imagine the same is happening. The same is true about every star system, a galaxy, and a cluster of stars or galaxies, where we are floating in a cosmic sea of this obscure.
Which is why you had to fly in a special ship that was basically in its own space-time bubble.
Generator, yes, it was.
That's how it had to work.
Yeah. So it had to cut through rather than it would get carried. It was more like an icebreaker. It had to cut through those other those time space fields that are the universal ocean, I would say.
Is
It's
that
called
why it's semi-spherical? Are there sort of engines on one side, or what? On the bit that the flat bit? If I could be crude.
the it's I think the field it generated was more like a bubble. But obviously, for its ergonomy, it served the purpose, the best, the landing purpose and everything. It was extremely durable, and it could survive thousands of its years, millions of its years, without being destroyed in space. So our technologies were, unlike today's human technologies, were based on safety measures. Basically, they were built with an idea that no matter what, they have to protect us and they have to protect the life they contained. So even in a case of accident or a crash landing, as we experienced at the end, we were at least kept safe, even if the ship's, say, guiding mechanism was somehow compromised.
So, where does that bring it sits today? You've got the new sciences, the people coming up to speed with what you're talking about. What does this bring us to now, and what's going to happen in your immediate future with regard to that?
So I think 2 points are extremely important. One has to do with the advanced entities and their status and intelligence. Where did we come from? Where did we originate? It was us, these advanced beings. It was not somebody else. So our ancestors were the most, advanced entities who have the fullness of the message and the capability to carry us on, to sustain the civilization. We were stranded here for millions of years, so we feel depressed, and we don't know what are we exactly doing, where are we going, etc. The second important part of the message that has to do with future, and that I've mentioned in our previous chat a week ago, is that there is a rehash of this memory, this event coming up from both experiencers. So I have got several other people talking to me over the years who are very, I would say, very rare, but very genuine being. None of them has exaggerated their message. None of them appeared on social media saying, I'm having contact with aliens. But a few of them described that they remember the original landing. And the future, what's the future of the message? At the same time, this mothership, the craft, has been witnessed by independent witnesses. So it may be there is a rescue mission, as I also have questioned why exactly did the 2002 Bodh Gaya even happen? Why was it possible? How possibly could I have seen in this very specific time frame our history? Why did it happen now?
Do you think it was a message? It was a message sent. It was an echo, a pre-echo of the arrival.
I think it was both a message and it was a contact that is being made by advanced spacecraft that has recreated the time-space field where I entered and experienced everything as it was millions of years ago. There was nothing human back then. There was nothing of this time. It was just as it was. At the same time, I know of other people have witnessed this spacecraft. So, as you say, there was a strong indication that this was an echo of a forthcoming contact or a contact, open contact experience for mankind, and a rescue mission which will be very open to entities who have lived here, advanced entities who have been stranded here for a very long time. Maybe some of them want to go home. I'm not saying everybody wants to
How
go
do you
home.
know it is what you say it is and it's not some other trap?
Well, I can only speak for what I have actually seen firsthand and what I testify, and from this I am saying it was a reflection, it was an echo of past and an echo of future. I know it's a little difficult to explain, but we are not talking in 3D or 4D time frame. We are talking in a more advanced time beyond time, alternative time frame, where things are valid both in the past and in present and in future. So they exist in a parallel dimension beyond our limited 3D, say linear
Okay.
human time space. And in that, it's also been kind of confirmed, or I've got more information from others, even during my recent stay in South America, that surely, certainly, there is past, present, and future, and as it is in the human horizon, so it is also in the space horizon, and there will be bigger event that we can.
Is there any way that we could get all those people together to talk about it?
Well, I would love to do that, but I have to say that many of them are either caught in their own life situations. As even I'm virtually still on run at the moment, or they are very sensitive, and not everybody wants to come open on cameras. Interesting, but I would gladly invite the concerned party to support my message. Perhaps it will be possible in some future, but more likely there are more entities who are like me, who do not talk. They do not talk as much as I do.
Well, as we say, horses for courses, but is there anything that we can do, or I can do, which would assist that in a positive way, in closing?
I think that I hope, let's say that, I hope that sending out this information serves as an invite to all concerned within the public and the scientific and the alternative community, and people who really ask the question, where did we come from? Not people who believe that we were created, or that we are a product of somebody. People who have a sovereign awareness, sovereign independent awareness of our ancestry in stars, who are aware of the fact that we are highly evolved beings, and who came from somewhere and want to go somewhere, wherever the future is, that we are ethical, spiritual beings, and etc., etc. Invite all those to discussion, to bring their information forwards and focus on the better future of humanity is that I hope and wish for. Despite or regardless of what's happening on the planet, at the same time we are dealing with many barbarian groups, terrorist governments, warlike creatures. They have been here since the beginning. They have been the most damaged. They have been arrogant. They are struggling for material possessions. They are arguing about their little funds, about their little life prospects, about hunting for their fish. But of those who have some higher interests, please do not give up, because there is greater future. So I hope that this message will bring more information for like-minded entities and individuals worldwide.
Well, I don't think there's anything more that can be said after that. Thank you very much indeed, Eva. And we'll leave it for now and wish you good travels.
Thank you, Miles. Please also, if you can post, say, my email address, or anybody who would wish to support, my research, I can post something simple as my PayPal address or my email address. People who want to
We'll put this up.
Contact me and who are interested in my information. Seriously, genuine individuals, please don't hesitate. Contact Miles and support Miles' work with the Basis project, because Miles, your Basis project is hosting all of our information. And please contact us.
Thank you very much.